What's up, everybody? I'm Dion, and welcome to Week 9 predictions. Week 8, I did awful. I know I did. 3 out of 14 games, I got the outcome correct. One was a perfect game, but that's not good enough. That really does suck. But also on top of that, I do not gamble, and I don't condone gambling. So please do not take my content, serious and, base your picks and betting off of what I do. I'm just a guy on YouTube that I make picks because I am nerdy and I like to keep track of how many outcomes I have correct and how many perfect games. So I actually have a spreadsheet. I am a nerd like that, but I just wanted to put that out there. But here we are, week 9. Let's jump into it. And our first matchup is CF Montreal versus New York Red Bull. Both of these teams last week, CF Montreal won at home their last game, but they lost against DC United at home last week, and they won midweek in the Canadian Championship or Cup, or I'm not exactly sure what it is. New York Red Bull, however, drew with Houston Dynamo at home there at Red Bull Arena. Currently, CF Montreal set 15th in the table, and New York Red Bull set 12th in the table. Thought that this might be a pretty good matchup there in Montreal, and I think it does. I don't think there's a lot of goals here, but I do think that Montreal get it done at home over New York Red Bull 1-0. So next up, we have Charlotte FC versus Columbus Crew. Currently, the Columbus Crew set 4th in the table, whereas Charlotte set 14th in the table there in the East. Last weekend, Charlotte drew with Colorado Rapid 2-2 at home, where Columbus Crew drew 1-1 with the Revs, also at home. We watched the Columbus Crew against the Revs game, and the Revs scored first. The Revs got a red card, which he deserved the red card, and right at the last minute, Columbus Crew get a header, literally in stoppage time of stoppage time, pretty much. But I think this is going to be a matchup that I feel like Columbus Crew should have an easy win here, but I don't think they do. I think this match ends in a draw, and I think that it ends in a 2-2 draw there at Bank of America Stadium. Moving on, we have New England Revolution against Sporting Kansas City. Currently, New England Revs are first in the East, where Sporting Kansas City are 14th in the West. Barrero for the Revs is suspended due to his red card from last match, but also Castellanos for Sporting Kansas City is also out because of a red card. Just like we talked before, the Revs did draw their last match, and Sporting Kansas City lost 3-0 against San Jose Earthquakes on the road. I don't think there's much to talk about here. Unfortunately, Sporting Kansas City are not doing all that great. Don't think that they're going to do good here on the road in New England, but I think it's going to be closer than what people think. And I actually think that the Revs only win this match 1-0 over Sporting Kansas City. This next matchup is one of the big matchups this week that I think is going to be a really good match. That is NYCFC versus FC Dallas. It's 5 in the East against 4 in the West. These two teams have looked really good so far this season. I think New York has really caught us all off guard. I know that they have caught me off guard. I didn't expect them to be in the top 5 in the East, but here they are. Last week, NYCFC beat Nashville at home 2-1, where FC Dallas also won 2-1 over Real Salt Lake last week. It's going to be a good matchup, and this was one that I felt like we couldn't really find out who would be the better team. And unfortunately, I think this one is also going to end in a draw 1-1 there in New York. I'm not sure where this match is being played because we never know where NYCFC is playing their home matches. So that takes us to Orlando City versus DC United. Currently, Orlando is sitting 7th in the East. DC United is sitting 11th. Last week, Orlando City did win on the road 2-1 over Minnesota United, but also DC United won on the road 1-0 over Montreal, which I think is a struggling Montreal for sure. This is going to be a tough matchup. It was a tough matchup for me to pick because Orlando City is struggling at home. DC United they're struggling altogether, but they have pockets of goodness. And I think that they're going to have confidence from last weekend winning on the road against Montreal. And a win's a win. We talked about it in the live stream. But I don't think that they go on the road and win. But I do think that they walk away with a point. And just like last match, I know that this is another draw. But I'm going to have to say it's going to be a 1-1 draw there in Orlando. So another good matchup we have is Philadelphia Union versus Toronto FC. Currently, Toronto's set 9th in the East, and Philadelphia are there 10th. So it's one of those games, if Union win, they jump Toronto. They are at Subaru Park. And last week, both of these teams drew 2-2 against their opponents. Philadelphia, it was a comeback draw against Chicago, where Toronto drew with Atlanta United. I keep jumping on this train, and I don't know why. I think that they're going to start getting it together. I hope they are, because I don't know what has changed from last year to this year, but I think that Philadelphia get the job done here at home, and I actually think that they beat Toronto 2-0 there at Subaru Park. So that takes us to Houston Dynamo versus Inter Miami. Houston are currently 7th in the West, where Inter Miami is 13th. Inter Miami have struggled this season, and in my eyes, Houston is doing a lot better than what I anticipated at the beginning of the year for how they would do. Inter Miami is still dealing with a lot of injuries, and a lot of key guys are out still, and I think that they're still going to continue to struggle. Last week, the Dynamo drew with New York Red Bulls away, where Inter Miami lost at home 1-0 over FC Dallas. I think that Inter Miami is just struggling altogether. Houston are doing really well at home, and I think that Houston get the job done at home, but by a narrow margin, and I think that they win over Inter Miami 1-0. Now that takes us to Nashville SC against LAFC. Nashville currently 6th in the East, where LAFC are 2nd in the West. I am no longer thinking that LAFC are not doing as well as I thought they would. They are back on track, and they're just going to continue to get stronger. Now Nashville, on the other hand, still very inconsistent in my opinion. Last week, Nashville SC did lose to NYCFC on the road 2-1, where LAFC won on the road, They are still in LA, that area. But they won 3-2 over LA Galaxy and El Tráfico. I think LAFC are going to be hard to beat. I just can't see Nashville doing it. Nashville need a scorer. They only have Mukhtar. I think that they need someone else. And I think the LAFC go on the road to Geodis Park and win this matchup 2-1 over Nashville. So next up we have Colorado Rapids versus St. Louis City. St. Louis are currently 1st. We all know that. Colorado Rapids are 11th. I don't know if it's because we did jinx St. Louis. We watched two of their games back to back in the live stream, and they lost both of them. And then they come out last week and just smash FC Cincinnati 5-1. Where Colorado Rapids drew last week against Charlotte 2-2. Here, I don't think that Colorado Rapids really have a chance. I think that St. Louis, they have been averaging 2.5 goals per game, and I think that they surpassed that in this match. And I actually think that they go on the road and beat Colorado 3-1. It's just they're playing. It's so weird that they played bad those 2 games. Didn't even score in those 2 games. But before that, they had a game 3-0 that they won, 4-0 that they won, and then they come out and beat a very good Cincinnati team 5-1. I think that they're going to keep rolling, and I think St. Louis wins this game, like I said, 3-1 over the Rapids. So that leads us into Real Salt Lake against San Jose Earthquake. Currently, San Jose are 5th in the West, where Real Salt Lake are 12th. Last week, Real Salt Lake lost to FC Dallas away. I'm sorry, I was about to say at home. Away 2-1, and San Jose won 3-0 over Sporting Kansas City. I am all aboard the San Jose Earthquakes train to make the playoffs. I'm rooting for them from here on out, and I think that they can get it done. I think that they will make the playoffs. I mean, especially with 9 teams making it. But anyway, that's beside the facts. I don't think that they're going to finish 8th or 9th. I think that they will finish higher than that. But not so fast. I don't think that they win this matchup against Real Salt Lake. And I don't think Real Salt Lake win it either. I think that this game is also going to end in a draw, and I think that it's going to be a 2-2 draw there in Real Salt Lake. So our second to last match there on Saturday, two teams that have been a huge letdown for, I think, a lot of people, and for my expectations also. I think these two teams would have been two of the top in the West, and here they're sitting 10th and 13th. And that is LA Galaxy versus Austin FC. I mean, right now in the Supporters Shield, they're 21st and 23rd. I don't know what's going on in these two cities. I don't understand what's going on with these two teams. It's just, I don't know. I don't even know what to say about how disappointed I am as just a fan of the league. I can only imagine a fan for these teams, how they feel right now, because it's very bad how bad they are right now. Anyway, that's beside the fact. Last week, LA Galaxy lost to LAFC 3-2 at home. Austin tied with Vancouver Whitecaps 0-0. These two teams have never drawn against each other. One team has won, either way. Austin has not scored a goal in their last two matches, which is wild for us to hear. I feel like last year we would have really never heard that. But I think that we see it. Galaxy fans, you're going to get your first dub of the year. And it's going to be a 1-0 win over Austin FC. So our final game on Saturday is the Seattle Sounders versus Minnesota United. 3-6 there in the West. It's going to be a good one. And I don't know what happened to Seattle last week, losing 4-1 against Portland. But then Minnesota losing 2-1 against Orlando at home. It's kind of mind-blowing what happened to these two teams last week. But I think it's going to be a good matchup. But I also think that they're at Lumen Field. Seattle Sounders, they're just very good at home. Even though Minnesota is ranked very well at home. Very well away. I think Seattle win this matchup. And I think that they win 2-0 there at home. So our final match, which is on Sunday, is Atlanta United versus Chicago Fire. 3-8 in the East. Atlanta is cooking. Yes, they drew with Toronto FC last weekend, but they were at Toronto. Chicago Fire had a 2-0 lead against Philadelphia Union. Union fought back. Chicago cannot let that happen. They need to finish out that game. They really do. And here, though, they are playing at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Atlanta are on fire at home, in my opinion, and I think that they continue that here against a good Chicago Fire. Chicago Fire are 8th right now in the East, and I think a lot of us didn't think that was going to happen, but here they are, just like some of the other teams. But I think Atlanta get it done 3-1 there at home. So last but not least, here it is, our game of the week that we are going to be doing the live stream on. That is, you guys voted, and it was a very close vote, as you can see on the screen. I'm going to put that up there. We have FC Cincinnati against Portland Timbers, 2 in the East against 9 in the West. Last week, Portland Timbers won 4-1 over a very good Seattle Sounders team, and FC Cincinnati got destroyed by St. Louis City 5-1. I don't think that we're going to see that here. I don't think that one team's going to blow out the other team. I was very surprised that Portland won that big with how poorly they've been doing and some of the injuries that they have. They haven't won an away game in their last 6 matches, though, for Portland. And unfortunately, I don't think that they do that here. I think that FC Cincinnati get back to their winning ways. And I think that this matchup ends in a 3-1 win for FC Cincinnati at home. So that is all for week 9. I'm super excited for the live stream. I can't wait for you all to be there. Please give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't. And we will see you in the live stream on Saturday.